How you doing, folks? Justin Warmoth here, filling in for Julie Broughton today on Take 6. And today we have a great update, or we think it's a great update, from Erik von Ancken on a really interesting story that he did last year. It's been 1 year since a new juvenile detention center opened in Volusia County, and today we're going to see how that detention center is working. So let's bring in Erik now, and good to see you, sir.
Hey,
How you,
Justin, how are you?
Great. How you doing?
Good. Trying to do too many things at once here, so I think we just did them. Yes, so you probably remember this story. We met with Sheriff Chitwood,
Hmm.
like you say, about a year ago, when he opened what was promising to be an all-encompassing facility in Daytona Beach. For the first time ever, Volusia County was going to have a juvenile resource center. So not just a detention center, not just a
Hmm.
place where kids who are in trouble go, most of them, many of them showing up in handcuffs, go in, get processed, sign a bunch of paperwork. Sometimes their parents come, sometimes a guardian shows up, and then just takes them home. Or sometimes they'll stay a few hours, sometimes a day or two, and then they just leave. So the sheriff realized very early on, this ain't working.
Hmm.
And since 2006, when he was the police chief in Daytona, he said, we got to do more than this. So many other counties do more than this. Seminole County as a really good model when it comes to juvenile resource centers. So he said, let's bring everybody to one place. And so this is a story we did a year ago. Mental health counselors, Department of Juvenile Justice, Volusia County schools, um, different components that a juvenile might run across separately, depending on what the case is. And he said, let's put them all under one roof.
Hmm.
So I said to him a year ago in this story that we aired a year ago, um, is this going to get results? And he said, well, we don't have data yet, but yeah, I think it's going to be game changing. So what do? We go back, as always, and we ask that same question, Sheriff. Now that you have the data, is it getting results? And Justin, um, what we found is the answer is yes, but not nearly in the way that the sheriff expected.
What do you mean?
It's getting results. Well, it's not bringing the number of juveniles committing crime down.
Okay.
It's not lowering the amount of kids who are doing things wrong and ending up in that facility.
Mm.
He said he kind of admitted, that was, in fact, his phrasing was pie in the sky. That was kind of a pie in the sky thing when we thought, we're going to change the world here in Volusia County. He said it actually has made numbers go up. So we're seeing more kids coming in, but he thinks that is because now this is available. We've been doing stories on it. A lot of people, have been publicizing this,
Hmm.
and people know about it. So parents are also bringing their kids to this juvenile. They call it the Family Resource Center.
Hmm.
This juvenile facility. But the other thing is, he said that he didn't expect is because these kids are now forced to talk to the other people in this facility. People like mental health counselors, they're required to take drug tests. He says we're finding out things that we never knew existed.
Mm.
So here's one example. So the kids have to take urine tests. And what's coming back in really scary numbers in their urine, we're talking young teenagers, we're talking kids who are under 13, things like cocaine,
Mm.
meth, fentanyl. And the sheriff's saying, what in the world is happening? How are you 12-year-olds getting cocaine in your system? Well, guess what? The only thing they admit to is vaping. And he says, well, what are these vapes? Because if this is the only thing that you're putting in your system, it's got to be in there. So they admitted to buying vapes, black market vapes, as he calls them,
Hmm.
from some of these dealers, illicit dealers, who are hanging out on the streets of Daytona Beach, who are selling to underage kids. Because, of
Hmm.
course, if you're trying to buy vapes, you got to be 18. So these kids are getting these vapes from people who are selling them, who either do it themselves or get it from someone who's done it, laced the THC oil in the vapes with things like trace amounts of cocaine, fentanyl, meth. So these kids are ending up unknowingly putting this stuff in their body. And I said to the sheriff, You would have had no idea. You would have never known about this if you didn't start drug testing all of these kids. He said, absolutely.
Unbelievable.
So I said, now what do you do with that information? Now that you know, what do you do
Hmm.
about it? He said, well, first of all, targeted investigation. Second of all, going after, people now that they know about. And thirdly, warning parents, screaming from the hilltops, your kids are ingesting cocaine and meth and fentanyl. And he said that's partly what led to, remember, we covered this a few months ago when Volusia County started holding these, drug awareness meetings with parents. And at first it sounds like, okay, I've heard this many times before. But then they started telling the parents, what they're finding. And he said it blew their minds. He said the second you tell a parent, hey, your kid has cocaine in their system, he said any parent, to use his words again, worth their salt is suddenly going to get serious.
Right.
So
It's a
totally different
problem.
from what he
Yeah.
expected.
Oh, absolutely. And you talk. I've interviewed Sheriff Lima with Seminole County a number of times just about fentanyl and what these dealers are now doing to lace these vape products, things unknowingly. Obviously, you're not buying a vape thinking that there's trace amounts of cocaine in there, but it's getting these kids even more addicted to something that's already a super addictive drug. So that's fascinating. I'm curious if you have any insight on whether we're seeing repeat offenders. If someone who has already been to this center, are they going back to the center, or is this almost like a scared straight kind of a thing where they go, they realize what's happening, and they get the mental health counseling, and then they don't go back?
The sense I got, Justin, is that there's fewer repeat offenders
Okay.
because now there is help.
Hmm.
What we don't know is the numbers of kids who are coming in as a first time and kids who are coming back. We do know that the total number of those is higher than it was last year, at least.
Mm.
But what from what the sheriff's saying, they're getting through to these kids more and more. And if nothing else, even if they can't quantify it at this point, if nothing else, they're giving them a whole lot more than these kids have ever had in their lifetimes. Because
Right.
as I said, it used to be signing some papers. Now it's actually, real people in the different areas dealing with the real problems that these kids have that otherwise
Hmm.
they not just that they wouldn't have gotten, but they didn't get.
Wow. So tonight, Eric, this story. What time will this air?
6 and 7 tonight.
6 and 7. Okay. Wow. Fascinating follow up on that. And that's why we do follow up on stories to check on what they find, because this is something I know the sheriff admitted that they didn't expect to find this. And this is what this new facility is finding, and it's getting the word out. So we're looking forward to seeing that today. Thanks for joining us today, Eric.
Absolutely, yeah. Have a great day, everybody.
You too. All right. Let's take a look at that forecast, shall we? 7-day forecast. It's a beautiful day. During the new newscast, I said it's a postcard kind of a day. You take a look outside, especially from our beach cameras, and you want to send that to your family and friends who are up north who are dealing with chillier temperatures, because it is nice. It is a tad windy, but it's really beautiful. No complaints here. And then Groundhog Day, Friday. We'll see what the rodent has to say. And then Sunday. And we have been talking about this and the impacts of, unfortunately for the Pro Bowl, always seemingly has to deal with some sort of weather. And it appears that's going to be the case once again as its return to Orlando on Sunday. We got some showers and some fronts coming through, because look at the drop in temperatures on Tuesday from the weather that will be coming through on Sunday. And I don't know, Jonathan Kegas is sitting right by me, and he's doing a deep dive into years past and looking into how often it truly does rain during our Pro Bowls. And maybe it's a half and half. It's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. So we're working on that. He's working on that. He's pulling the numbers for us. So other than that, really nice couple of days ahead of us, and especially Saturday. So thanks for joining us this afternoon for Take 6. We'll see you back here at 4 p.m. for our next newscast. Take care.